All right, Shalom. Before I begin, I'd like to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Ruach Kodash. I'd like to say double honors to my teachers, the apostles, bishops, and elders of Great Millstone, the men whom I've learned this truth from. And I'd also like to say Shalom and salutations to the brothers out there of the hopeful elect that are preaching this word in truth and sincerity. All right, I'm the Brother Shaquat from the branch of Great Millstone, Montreal. Back once again with another lesson, and this lesson is going to be a brief lesson. Basically just touching on the Lord's omnipotence, right? Because the world has been indoctrinated with the false perception of the Lord, right? The way that the Heavenly Father and His beloved Son have been represented and basically shown or portrayed was false, man. And that was ultimately done through who? Esau, Edom, the so-called white man, right? That's why when we read Job 9 and verse 24, it speaks about how that, the earth is given into the hand of the wicked. He covered the faces of the judges thereof. If not, who is he? Right? So a part of him covering the faces of the judges thereof is him basically presenting the Heavenly Father and the Son falsely. That's also blasphemy, right? That's that blasphemy that it speaks about in the book of Revelation, the 13th chapter. They blaspheme, the heavens and so on and so forth, roughly paraphrasing it. But that's a part of that, falsely depicting the Heavenly Father and portraying him as something else. And in this lesson that I'm going to be getting into, I'm going to get into the aspect of the Heavenly Father being omnipotence, all-powerful, right? So matter of fact, let me start with the definition of the word omnipotent. And the Google definition, it says a deity having unlimited power, able to do anything, right? And that's the God of the Bible, man. The God of the Bible, which his real name is Yahweh in the ancient Hebrew tongue. He has unlimited power. And if you are looking at the scriptures with the spiritual eye, that's going to be evident. It's going to be, it's going to be easy to basically understand that, because there's countless accounts and examples that goes to show that the Lord is or has unlimited power, man. The Lord does control everything, man, and that's a part of having unlimited power, the ability to control everything. And that's what makes you the Most High, right? And that's what makes the Most High the Most High, the Heavenly Father, Yahweh. And we also understand that the Lord Yahweh has gave authority and power, or all power, right, to his Son, Yahweh Shai. So Yahweh Shai would really be the one that's in control of pretty much everything, with the power granted him by the Heavenly Father Yahweh, right? Case in point, Yahweh Shai is able to pardon people's iniquities. Yahweh Shai is able to basically hold out the scepter of mercy, right? Just like in the book of Esther, how Xerxes held out that scepter, that golden scepter, right, for Esther to step in his courts at that time without being summoned, right? But that's symbolic to, you being granted mercy. And that's the case with Yahweh Shai. Yahweh Shai is able to pardon people, pardon spirits, or, deem them guilty. That power and authority was given to Yahweh Shai and nobody else, right? So Yahweh Shai is all powerful. That's why when you read Matthew 24, I believe it is, or 25, it speaks about, I think it's Matthew 26. It says, all power has been given, Yahweh Shai said, all power has been given me in heaven and in earth, roughly paraphrasing that precept. So continuing on in the definition, let's get some of the similar words. It says, all powerful, almighty, supreme, most high, right? Totalitarian, invincible, unconquerable. You see? So those are all similar words that tie to that word omnipotent, which are all words that you can use with the Most High, So let me get this real quick in the book of Sirach, or Ecclesiasticus 19 and verse 20. It says, the fear of the Lord is all wisdom, and in all wisdom is the performance of the law, right? So to fear the Lord, that's the first step to wisdom, because once you fear the Lord and you acknowledge that the Lord is all powerful, that's when you start to gain more understanding about the Lord. The Lord will allow you to, increase in knowledge, right? And you increasing in knowledge, you don't want to offend the Most High, because you know about Him, That's something that's important, understanding the power you serve, right? That's why the elder Apostle Gabar always pushes that, to understand why you're doing the things you're doing, because that gives you more of a push, so to speak, or makes you more motivated, because you know the reason and purpose why you're doing the thing that you're doing, So it says, the fear of the Lord is all wisdom, and in all wisdom is the performance of the law, and the knowledge of His omnipotency, right? So there we go. That word pops up again, going to show that the Lord is in control of all things. But you could boast in the fact that you understand that, So it says Jeremiah 9 and verse 23 and 24 speaks about glorying in the fact that you understand the Lord, because when you really understand the Lord, you understand that He controls every aspect of each and every person's life, and the Lord actually sets up scenarios and lets them play out. All right, and what I'm gonna get is actually a scenario where the Lord actually set up somebody, in this case will be King Ahab, to die. And the whole scenario, the way it was set up, it was all through the Lord, And one thing to understand too is that Satan is not doing his own thing, because that's something that's misunderstood in the world as well. Satan is actually under the control of the Most High. Satan needs permission to be able to do particular things from the Most High, right? So let's get this account, or this scenario that the Lord set up. This is the 1 Kings 22, and I'm going to start at verse 9. It says, then the king of Israel called an officer and said, hasten hither Micaiah, the son of Imlah. And the king of Israel and Jehoshaphat, the king of Judah, sat each on his throne, having put on their robes in a void place in the entrance of the gate of Samaria. And all the prophets prophesied before them. And Zedekiah, the son of Hanah, made him horns of iron, and he said, thus saith the Lord, with these shalt thou push the Syrians until thou have consumed them. And all the prophets prophesied so, saying, go up to Ramoth Gilead and prosper, for the Lord shall deliver it into the king's hand. Verse 13, and the messenger that was gone to call Micaiah spake unto him, saying, Behold now, the words of the prophets declare good unto the king with one mouth. Let thy word, I pray thee, be like the word of one of them, and speak that which is good. Right, so you had prophets that basically confirmed or prophesied to the king to go up to battle. They gave him confirmation that, okay, the Most High is with you. Go up to battle. That was the vision those prophets received. But guess what? That vision that was given to those prophets, even though it was a false vision, it wasn't false, but it was a persuasion to persuade Ahab to go up to battle, right? But it was to his demise. It wasn't for his welfare, because he would later on end up being put to death at Ramoth Gilead, so he shouldn't have went to battle. But that counsel or that prophecy from those prophets was not a good prophecy, right? It was just something that the king wanted to hear. He wanted to go to battle. He wanted to hear, oh, let me go battle. I'm going to win the battle, Verse 13, and the messenger that was gone to call Micaiah spake unto him, saying, behold, now the words of the prophets declare good unto the king with one mouth. Let thy word, I pray thee, be like the word of one of them, and speak that which is good. And Micaiah said, as Yahweh liveth, the Lord saith unto me, that will I speak. So he came to the king, and the king said unto him, Micaiah, shall we go against Ramoth Gilead to battle, or shall we forbear? And he answered him, go and prosper, for the Lord shall deliver it into the hand of the king. And the king said unto him, how many times shall I adjure thee that thou tell me nothing but that which is true in the name of the Lord? And he said, I saw all Israel scattered upon the hills as sheep that have not a shepherd. And the Lord said, these have no master. Let them return every one to his house in peace. And the king of Israel said unto Jehoshaphat, did I not tell thee that he would prophesy no good concerning me, but evil? And he said, hear thou therefore the word of the Lord. I saw the Lord sitting on his throne, and all the host of heaven standing by him, on his right hand and on his left. Right, so that king wanted to hear, wanted the prophet to prophesy what he wanted to hear, and not what the true words of the Lord were. Because he didn't put his trust in the Most High, man. He put his trust in himself and his army and his battle, because he had it in his mind to win that battle. It says, verse 20, and the Lord said, who shall persuade Ahab that he may go up to fall at Ramoth Gilead? And one said on this manner, and another said on that manner. And there came forth a spirit and stood before the Lord Yahweh, and said, I will persuade him. And the Lord said unto him, wherewith? And he said, I will go forth, and I will be a lying spirit in the mouth of all his prophets. And he said, thou shalt persuade him and prevail also. Go forth and do so. Now therefore behold the Lord had put a lying spirit in the mouth of all these thy prophets, and the Lord had spoken evil concerning thee. But Zedekiah the son of Hanah went near and smote Micaiah on the cheek, and said, which way went the spirit of the Lord from me to speak unto thee? And Micaiah said, behold, thou shalt see in that day, when thou shalt go into an inner chamber to hide thyself. Right. So Micaiah told the king what was true. He told him that the Lord put a lying spirit upon these false prophets. The Lord actually influenced them to lie to you. And if you take heed, you're going to die. It's not going to go well for you. Right? But those men were still prophets, but the Lord used them to, basically lie. And why did the king listen to them instead of Micaiah? Because of numbers. Micaiah was one man, the word of one man versus the word of many. Right? So yeah, that goes to show that the Lord is in control of scenarios of control of everything, because the Lord was controlling both sides here. He was controlling the false prophets and the right prophecy, the right prophet, which was Micah, But guess what? Micah was that was the true prophecy, and that prophecy was the one that actually came to pass. So yeah, I'm gonna end it off there. Lord willing, this lesson was edifying. I just wanted to put that out there through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashim Al Shai. Call Halayim La Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai Bashim Chakadash. Once again, double honors to my teachers, the apostles, and the elders of Great Millstone. Until next time, Shalom.